What's happening, my beautiful babies?
Welcome to another Your Spaceship video music review. Today, I'm basically forced to talk about the new Arctic Monkeys record. It has completely polarized fans and gained itself some extremely mixed reviews. Before I get into it, I just want to put it out there that I personally loved it. But music is entirely preferential. You don't have to like it, but I would love it if you stick around with me while I break it down piece by piece and get into what I thought was so great about it. I'm gonna explore the hidden meanings and theories behind the subject matter. I'll explain the conceptual theme throughout the album and give you a little backstory as to why this album came about and why it sounds so different from anything the Arctic Monkeys have done before.
So let's get cooking, boys.
Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino is both the title of this record, and it's also the setting we're supposed to picture in our mind's eye whenever we listen to its 11 tracks. For those of you that don't know, Tranquility Base is the name of the site where man first landed on the moon back in 1969. So the scene that we're meant to be imagining in our minds is of a futuristic Vegas-style hotel and casino resort on the surface of the moon, where lounge singers croon in the corner of the downstairs bar while the patrons sip their drinks and dance around in their silver and white attire. There's also a highly reviewed taqueria on the roof if you're in the mood for some burritos and margaritas. Okay, you getting that? Is that all in there? You picturing that? Usually when a record creates its own world the same way this one does, it would be considered a conceptual album. But there's actually been a lot of debate around whether or not this meets the criteria to actually be considered a conceptual album. Alex Turner has given us a great setting to imagine everything happening in, but apart from the narrator, he hasn't really filled it with characters. He doesn't even really use a lot of songs to talk about the place or any of the stories that it has to tell. However, there is a very good reason for all of that, but it is probably the most complicated thing to explain about this record. So before I get into that, I need to give you a little bit of backstory to explain how this record came about. If you've been a long-time Arctic Monkeys fan, then you will be well aware that the band have always stylistically and musically evolved their sound for each record that they put out. Whether it's the chip shop rock, as Alex Turner refers to it on the first record, the fuzzy desert vibes of the Josh Homme co-produced third record, or the huge riffs and hip-hop beats of their last album, AM, they have always developed a new sound for each album. Alex Turner even changes his clothing and his hairstyle to fit the theme of each record. There's been a long 5-year gap between the last Arctic Monkeys album, AM, and Tranquility Base, and that is majorly because of how well their last album did. AM broke America for the Arctic Monkeys and turned them into a worldwide mainstream success. They were always an extremely popular band, but predominantly in the UK. But that last record changed everything. AM seen the band donning greaser leather jackets with slick-backed hair and sunglasses on stage. Alex Turner would start swaggering around and doing hip gyrations, and the music was filled with memorable riffs and slapback vocals and hip-hop drum beats. The album did so well that it was followed by a behemoth of a world tour that took them 2 years to complete. When the tour was over, Alex Turner joined up with Miles Kane to make a second The Last Shadow Puppets record, and Matt Helders went out to the desert with Josh Homme to start working with Iggy Pop on his post-pop depression record. Needless to say, these guys never really stopped. So when it came around to writing songs for the next Arctic Monkeys album, it's really no surprise that Alex Turner said he suffered with writer's block. Turner said that he felt like he had exhausted the guitar. Creativity really only hit for him whenever he sat down at his Steinway piano that was given to him for his birthday. He hadn't played piano since he was a kid with his dad, but that change of instrument seemed to open up his mind and he started writing all of these songs. Another thing that Alex Turner became fascinated with during this time was science fiction films. More sort of avant-garde sci-fi movies. We're not talking like Star Wars or Interstellar or something like that. The thing that intrigued him about them was how science fiction was being used to talk about real-life grounded problems. The sci-fi elements were being used as an elaborate distraction to take your attention away from the fact that the writer or director is trying to tell you something personal about themselves. So that is essentially the theme that this record explores. The concept of a lunar hotel on the moon is more of a distraction than anything. The majority of these songs are a meta-dialogue on the struggles of fame, modern age technology, Turner's writer block, and his fears of becoming a washed-up has-been. Slightly unorthodox, I know, but I want to talk about track 8 first. It's called Science Fiction, and it's basically the key to understanding this record. If this album is a movie, then basically science fiction is the prelude. It's a song that basically says, I am struggling to write music, so I am going to create an elaborate concept that allows me to explore the things that I want to talk about in a new way. The way some science fiction does. Two of the most important lines on this cut are, I want to make a simple point about peace and love, but in a sexy way where it's not obvious. And so I tried to write a song to make you blush, but I have a feeling that the whole thing may well just end up too clever for its own good. There really couldn't be a clear explanation as to why we've ended up with this dense, mysterious album. And the fact that he thought it might end up too clever for its own good just shows that he foreseen the inevitable backlash that this may cause from fans of the last album, and really how the whole concept that he's came up with might just go right over people's heads. The first track, Star Treatment, is honestly one of my favorite songs on the album. It sees Turner introduce us to the character that he'll be playing throughout the majority of the record. He's a washed-up old lounge singer who stays in the honeymoon suite of the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. He makes a living by playing the exact same show twice a day, 4 nights a week. The first line of this song, and the line that actually opens the entire record, is, I just wanted to be one of the Strokes, now look at the mess you made me make. And that is immediately referring to the influence that the Strokes had on early Arctic Monkeys material. But now they have evolved so much they couldn't be further from that. We're now in a completely different arena. The fact that he says, look at the mess you made me make, sort of shows that he did have reservations about putting this album out. Referring to it as a mess, I don't think shows a whole lot of confidence in it. So for everybody who has publicly been slating this album, it's funny to know that he has these lines in the song where he's basically saying, I knew this would happen. Also, when he refers to the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, he calls it his imaginary residency, which is interesting because with a concept, you would want people to believe it. But right away, he's taking us out of the concept so that we're on the higher level with him, seeing him create this world. It just reflects that meta and self-aware element of this record that I talked about before. Essentially, the point isn't to make you believe that there is a hotel on the moon. The point is to show you how songwriters use these devices to try and talk about things in a new way. It's basically a concept album about making a concept album. I haven't actually noticed anybody point out this next thing I'm going to talk about. Maybe I'm just getting too deep into this. But when Turner sings the line, everybody's on a barge floating down the endless stream of great TV, 1984, 2019, that isn't the first time the year 1984 has been brought up in an Arctic Monkey song. Their very first single, I Bet That You Look Good on the Dance Floor, had the really popular line in the chorus, dancing to electropop like a robot, from 1984. I kind of felt like he just put these 2 years back to back to sort of say, a lot has changed since that first single, but we're still here, and we'll be here next year too. It's either that or he thought it would take until 2019 to release this album. I'm not too sure. I'm not gonna deep dive into every single track because I feel like I could talk about this for an extremely long time and we all have stuff to do. But I'm just gonna point out some notable things that I think you should consider, especially if you didn't like the album and maybe you should go back and listen to it after this review. Or if you're just getting into it for the first time and you don't really understand everything about it, this might help you. 1 Point Perspective starts with the line dancing in my underpants while nothing but a piano taps and a drum beat plays. This just makes me picture Alex Turner writing this record at his home studio in his underpants, which I don't really want to picture. It just completely takes you out of the scene that he's tried to set in the first song. It's like you're on the movie set with him. You can see what they're setting up, but you get to look behind the scenes. He also utters the line, bear with me man, I lost my train of thought, followed by just music where the vocals drop out. He does this a couple of times in the song and I just thought it was like a great musical representation of writer's block. Like he gets so far in the song and then he's like, okay, wait, what is it? And the music just keeps going. The title track is arguably the most conceptual track of the whole record. It basically takes you on a tour of this lunar hotel. We get to meet Mark at reception. We even get to meet Jesus at the day spa. Jesus in the day spa. 4 out of 5 was definitely the best choice of a single from this record because it actually maintains a few of the elements from their last album, AM. So it's probably the best song to transition you from AM to Tranquility Base, especially if you're struggling to think of Arctic Monkeys in this new way. The track is named after the rating that the taqueria restaurant on the roof of the hotel called the Information Action Ratio got. The name doesn't sound very Mexican, but, I can dig it. The world's first ever monster truck front flip is a mouthful of a track, but it really reminded me of Don't Sit Down 'Cause I Moved Your Chair from their fourth album, Suck It and See. The track talks a lot about being sucked into social media and essentially where the world is at now with technological advances. When asked about the title, Alex Turner basically said he called the song that because now we're living in a world where people are front flipping monster trucks. The front flip in question actually happened just in 2017. And you should definitely YouTube it after you watch this video. 100%. It is crazy. Pretty much what he is saying here is, where are our limitations as a society? We keep advancing and things don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. I'll admit that that kind of terrifies me as well. It's also worth noting that the style and the verses of this song are really reminiscent of the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album, and that's actually a record that Alex Turner cited as an influence when making this. For anybody that has been saying these songs are gonna be boring live, just wait until they see She Looks Like Fun live. That thing is gonna be dope! It's gonna tear the house down. This track again is about the overuse of social media. The random words yelled out over the chorus just remind you of something you probably scroll past on Instagram. The Ultra Cheese is probably the one song on the record that is full on lounge. No spacey keyboards. No conceptual mention of the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. The title comes from a line in the song that goes, "What a death I died writing that song, start to finish with you looking on. It stays between us, Steinway and his sons, 'cause it's the Ultra Cheese." Obviously, Steinway and his sons is referring to the piano, in case that flew by you there. But this seems to me to be talking again about the struggles of songwriting for Alex. I don't know if this is specifically referring to a demo that never made the cut because it was ultra cheesy. I've seen on a couple of articles that Alex Turner said a friend advised him to stop writing so many love songs. So maybe he had written a couple and they were way too cheesy for their own good, so he decided to throw them out. This song also ends the album on a really eerie line. Turner sings, "I've did some things I shouldn't have done, but I never stopped loving you once." And then the record just ends. It's very abrupt. It's not sharp, but you definitely feel like there was more to that song. For me, this was probably the most mysterious song on the entire album. I've been going through it over and over again, trying to figure more out about it. I wish I had more to give you on that, but I really don't. Look, I don't want to drone on and on about this record, so I'm gonna leave it here. The main gripes I just need to get off my chest is that a lot of people are calling this album terrible. It's not. You may not like it, and it may not be what you were hoping for the next Arctic Monkeys album, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's extremely well thought out and dense, but obviously that isn't for everyone. AM was filled to the brim with catchy melodies and hooks. Every song was a single on that record, but on Tranquility Base there are almost no hooks. So it is entirely understandable why people can't get into this record. I do get that. I've always really enjoyed the Arctic Monkeys music, but I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan. But for some reason, I have felt so defensive of this album since it came out. And I think that's a lot to do with just realizing how dismissive people can be over something new and different. If you want a band that sounds the same on every single record, that's fair enough. I personally just love bands that keep evolving. I think if they capture a sound within an album, I don't really want them to go back and revisit that because I can listen to that anytime. You know, let's move on and do new things, break new ground. Also, stop saying there's no guitars. There's guitars all over this thing. Honestly, like every song, but because they're not playing like balls to the walls riffs in your face, people are like, it's just pianos, there's no guitar. But that's just not true. Also, it's not jazzy. Loungy, yes. No jazz. And for everybody who's saying that Alex Turner has taken over the band and Matt Helders is being criminally underused. Oh no, Matt Helders didn't get to play drum solos on this record. Alex Turner had written these songs and brought them to guitarist Jamie Cook. And Jamie said he was blown away by the new direction that he was going in. There was brief talk of this becoming an Alex Turner solo record because they knew how far away it was from anything they've done before. But the point is, they obviously agreed to make this record together. I, for one, am actually really happy that they decided to make this an Arctic Monkeys record because then it means we did get the input of the band. This album would sound so much different if Alex Turner had never brought this into the Arctic Monkeys. And in reference to Matt Helders' drumming, he actually said himself that he drums for the songs. And that is just a testament to what a great musician he is because that is exactly what you should do. Okay, look, I think I'm done. Most of the fun of this record is just getting into it for yourself. Sit back and relax, listen to it all in one take. Start laughing to yourself about the ridiculous lyrics. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please like and subscribe to the Your Spaceship channel, and I will be back real soon with another one.